Okay, so welcome to a new type of video that I'm going to be doing called, I'll think of a clever name. I actually don't really know of a good clever name for this. But under the advisory of a commenter named Lou Pombo, I decided that trying something a little different and a little more condensed would be a good idea, because I read the comment, and I really like the suggestion, and I appreciate suggestions from you guys, as it happens. So there is the comment, and this is going to be the first time I'm trying this, but I'm not particularly short-spoken, so we'll see how this goes. So if you'd like to read her very well-written comment, it is right there for you. I presume it's a her from the photo. It could be whatever. Whatever. Whoever, gender, whatever, I don't know. Anyway, I have a timer. And I decided that first I would want to do this with the Warframes, because I think it would be more to my experience. So, so that I don't get off track in rambling, let's get started. I have a timer. I don't want to spend more than 1 minute on any one of these frames. So, Ash is first, because we're going alphabetically. Let's get started. Alright, so Ash is a really good solo frame to choose because he is very good in a solo setting. He has a lot of setups for finishers that are useful solo. His 1 is very good and targets multiple enemies. His 2 is in invisibility, albeit shorter lived than Loki's invisibility, and can be augmented to help teammates. So in that setting where an invisibility is needed to hide teammates, he's very, very good. His 4 carries one of the highest potential damage numbers in the game, and is one of the few attacks that does raw finisher damage, which goes through any type of defense, being very, very useful. He is super high damage when he is used surgically, meaning he is not particularly good when there are incredibly high amounts of enemies, because his 4 runs off of enemy count, as opposed to raw AoE, making him very good for solo, exterminate, capture, what have you. Works out very well. Alright, I'll first start off by saying that I really don't like Banshee. Sonic Boom is very short range and not very useful for a frame that is as squishy as she is. Sonar, while okay, is by no means great, and doing extra damage with your guns that are probably already killing enemies instantly may as well be pretty much useless. Silence on the stealth side is somewhat useful, but on the whole isn't a great ability for when you just need to kill enemies. And Soundquake doesn't do the damage you want for being locked in place and constantly draining your entire energy pool, in my opinion. Lots of people like Soundquake, lots of people like Silence, lots of people like Sonar, like some people like Sonic Boom, I hope. So, Banshee is a frame that is usable for very specific roles, but I do not like as a frame on the whole, and her being clan tech makes her much harder to use or to acquire. Alright, Chroma being the newest frame, I've had the least amount of time with him, but I have played quite a bit. First of all, Spectral Scream is absolutely terrible. It locks you in place, or not in place, but to a very slow moving standard, and is quite short range with almost no damage to back that up. Elemental Ward, on the other hand, is a buff for yourself and teammates, and can be used 4 different ways, 2 of which, Fire and Ice, are incredibly good. Vex Armor is just a raw, amazing ability top to bottom. It gives you it makes you incredibly hard to kill, and gives you incredibly high damage at the same time for taking damage. Given the ability to heal, Chroma is basically immortal. So, use him with discretion as to healing him being incredibly important. Effigy is fine and does some decent crowd control. It's nothing to write home about in terms of a 4 that is particularly overpowered or amazing, but Chroma on the whole is a real tank. Ember, recently blighted with a nerf, well, not so recently, update 7 I think it was. Fireball at low levels, very good. Accelerant at low levels, quite good. Fire Blast at low levels, quite good. World on Fire at low levels, quite good. Maybe you're seeing a theme here. She is a low-level consistent frame. At higher levels, and we're talking about 30, 35, she starts to drop off dramatically, specifically against Grineer, the most dangerous faction in the game. It is not okay that she drops off at that low of a level for a frame that is, in theory, supposed to incinerate anything that comes close to her. Her 4 is insanely, it just eats your energy no matter what, no matter how much efficiency you give it, it just eats it and will never let it go. And no matter what you do, there's nothing you can do to stop it, and it doesn't do enough for its cost. Fire Blast is okay since it's buff, but the rest of her abilities, her kit just doesn't work for what she's meant to do. I'll be very brief. Excalibur as he stands now has been nerfed all to high hell. He is getting a rework very soon. He will get his own video very soon. Frost, the all-time defense king, being able to put up a giant shield around any defensible position. He is very good at freezing his way out of, or into any dangerous situation. Avalanche is a crowd control combined with a fairly high-powered AoE. So the momentary freezing and then cracking is good at giving your teammates a chance to also mop up with their 4s. Ice Wave, when augmented, is actually quite good at creating choke points and can be utilized in a few ways at low levels that are quite good. Freeze, when used in a hard team setting where everyone is communicating appropriately, is actually one of the best ones in the entire game, being able to keep an enemy completely incapacitated for upwards of 20 seconds, like without them being able to do jack shit about it. Frost is a good frame who is supposedly getting a rework soon, so he could be even better soon. Hydroid, mediocre in all ways, almost. He's very maneuverable. His Tidal Surge gives him the ability to crash into enemies without being able to take damage. Undertow, similarly, turns him into a puddle that can not absorb, but drag enemies under and deal constant damage while being completely invincible. His 2 middle powers share that theme. His 1 is a knockdown, but is a bit inconsistent. His 4, on the other hand, is also in sort of the same vein, where it's a grab from tentacles in an area that is a knockdown and a slam, but is not very consistent as a 4 that you would be wanting to use a lot. Undertow and Tidal Surge make up for this a lot in missions where you gotta go fast, or where you need to be invincible for short periods of time, as Undertow is toggleable and costs a respectable amount of energy to use. Since he is easier to get now, he is worth getting. Try him out. Alright, I really don't like Limbo. Banish. It displaces a target into the Rift Plane where you can't kill them unless you go into the Rift Plane, expensing more energy to use your 2 so that you can be in the Rift Plane. You are invincible, but able to be seen from enemies that are not in the Rift Plane that you're in, which is both good and bad. It'd be nice if you had a few more bonuses, but you do have one other bonus, which is your energy regeneration. Limbo is basically the energy regeneration whore for allies that need to be channeling at all times, such as Mesa or Banshee. His Cataclysm is alright for putting an entire group of enemies that want you dead into the Rift with you, and Rift Surge is a move that you would use on top of your other abilities if they worked as well as you wanted them to, or if Limbo was somehow, let's say, immortal in the Rift. People have said that he is just complicated to use. I think those people are wrong. He's not that complicated, he's just not that good. Alright, now we're talking about the real shit. Loki is the king god of this game, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. Decoy is amazing. Enemies are gonna look at the decoy, not at you. Invisibility, guess what? Enemies can't see you. Switch teleport synergizes well with decoy, making it so you can get across the map very, very quickly. Radial disarm, being the best ability in the entire game, makes it so enemies are melee, such as can't get to you because you're also the fastest frame in the entire game. Radial Disarm can be augmented to be even better with an ability we'll talk about later, making it so that all enemies affected by Radial Disarm are also under a radiation proc, which means they're going to fight each other, which means they're not going to fight you. You can take entire platoons of soldiers and turn them all against each other without any fear of death because you're going to be invincible while you do it. Loki is non-stop, drop dead, kill everyone, overpowered. It's insane. He doesn't require skill. He's just the best. Mag is what I would consider the starting point of someone who wants to play as a caster. Pull is a crowd control ability 1 that is actually quite good. Shield Polarize, when augmented, can give you a hefty shield overdose with yourself and your teammates, being able to restore them at most any ranges. Bullet Attractor, while alright, is not something you're going to use very often, whereas Crush is a nice introduction to AoE abilities that will simply kill everything around you. This was simply buffed to proc 3 times, lifting enemies into the air and crushing every bone in their body. All of her abilities are not affected negatively by decreased duration, making energy efficiency devastating. Alright, Mesa is the gun-focused frame. Ballistic Battery will keep storing damage that you're dealing with your guns up to a set amount, which you can then discharge into one powerful blast on strong enemies. Shooting Gallery is a move that you will use to buff yourself for a short period of time, and then also your allies for a short period of time. It is inconsistent, and when it lasts a long time, you're going to be feeling the pain when you're not getting the buff, but it is buff nonetheless and is helpful to teammates. Shatter Shield, being one of the most amazing abilities in the game, does not protect you from melee, but protects you from all projectiles. You will receive 95% damage reduction with just Intensify installed, and bullets will bounce off of you, meaning that you're incredibly hardy. This, combined with Peacemaker, which is one of the highest damage 4s in the game, granted you need line of sight, make Mesa incredibly good at killing everyone around her non-stop, provided she has the energy to do so. She is management-oriented. Provided you like how she plays, Mirage is actually quite good. Using Hall of Mirrors, one of the best ones in the game, she can duplicate herself into 5. All 4 of her clones will do a portion of her damage from anything that she's using that is a weapon. So, you know, that machine gun you have, or those lasers that you're carrying around, yeah, that in a spread of 4 of you. It's quite amazing. Sleight of Hand is more of a gimmick and is not particularly useful. Eclipse means that you're going to be able to choose between a damage buff and a defense buff, depending on where you're choosing to stand on the map. This can be hard to manage, but is good nonetheless. Prism is a explosive stun combined with a decent damage 4. It's a little weird to use, as it runs off of some interesting modifiers. But Mirage is good, provided you enjoy how she plays. I, personally, do. Alright, this is Necros. Necros is the necromancer, quote-unquote. He has Soul Punch, a blow so powerful, blah blah blah. Soul Punch is your standard one. Not very useful. Doesn't really have much going for it. Terrify, on the other hand, has an enemy limit, so we're just going to ignore that as well. Desecrate, on the other hand, is incredibly useful in areas where you need to get tons of fucking loot. Necros is the Desecrate whore. If you'd like to hit 3 non-stop all day until you drop dead and have to resummon yourself from the dead, then you can use Necros. Necros is Desecrate. Desecrate is Necros. It's what he's used for. Shadows of the Dead will summon enemies that you have recently killed, in order, which means that you're going to be picking specific enemies, and then when you summon them, they will do almost nothing for you. So, have fun pressing 3. Nova, being one of the given gods of Warframe, is the Council frame. She has Null Star, not particularly useful, Antimatter Drop, which you can shoot into, and it tracks your cursor, meaning that it has potentially incredibly high damage. Wormhole, being an incredibly good maneuverability move, and is useful for helping your teammates get to places they may otherwise not be able to get to. But the end-all, be-all of Nova is Molecular Prime. If you're going to play Nova, you're going to use Molecular Prime. Double damage on all enemies it touches, and the ability to modify it to either speed enemies up, which is situationally useful, or slow enemies down to about 30% of their regular speed and attack speed. Nova is incredibly useful in any mission where you need to hold a point, or any mission where there are going to be so many enemies that you just need them all dead. Because the other thing I didn't mention about Molecular Prime is that enemies will blow up when they die. Nyx, having been recently dethroned from her crowd control goddess days because Loki has received her chaos inside of his 4. Mind control lets you control one enemy. Super useful, or so you would like to think. The AI of enemies is not so particularly good that they're very keen on helping you or being able to do so. Psychic Bolts is useless. Completely useless. Chaos, being one of the originally most powerful abilities in the game, confuses enemies and forces them to fight each other, which would be great if Loki didn't already now have this ability. Absorb, on the other hand, will keep you alive and stuck in place while enemies shoot at you, and you absorb their damage and then explode. Unfortunately, the range is not enough, and whenever you come out of Absorb, usually you will be shot dead on the spot, provided your team isn't there to back you up, or if you didn't have enough energy to kill everyone around you. Alright, Oberon. Smite is incredibly good at killing enemies in the early game, and Oberon strikes a perfect balance between being a tank and being a caster frame. Renewal will allow you to heal you, yourself, and your allies. Incredibly useful when you don't have another way to do so, like you will in the endgame. His 2 is a carpet of damage that, at low levels, will basically incinerate anything it touches. And his 4 is a knockdown, combined with a blind, combined with pretty high damage, combined with a radiation proc. There's not much more you could ask from a 4, except for it to just instantly kill all opponents, which, at low levels, it does. Rhino, the reigning champ of early game. If you need a frame in the early game to carry you to the end game, Rhino is there to help. Rhino charge gets him across the map fast. That's all fine and good. Roar is a buff for yourself and your teammates to be able to do more damage. Useful when you don't really have so many mods that are going to be able to help you kill enemies in droves. His 4 is a stun combined with a good damage AoE, which is quite good. But more importantly than all of that is Iron Skin. Convert energy to raw survivability. It makes it so that you are crowd control immune and proc immune while Iron Skin is active, giving you a big shield and tons of immunity, making you incredibly hard for low-level enemies to take out. You are basically an immortal god until Uranus or so. Saryn. Not used particularly a lot. Her 1 is alright. Her Molt is useful when augmented to heal her, as she has one of the highest armor and health totals in the game. Contagion is fairly useless, buffing melee weapons that you most likely will not be using in the end game, and Miasma is incredibly high damage when modded correctly, but she, unfortunately, doesn't have much going for her besides Miasma and Molt, and there are other frames that can do the job that she'd like to do better. Trinity is the bee's knees when it comes to support. If you want to support people and have people just love it when you're around, you've got Trinity. Energy Vampire. Give teammates energy while hurting enemies. It couldn't be more simple than that. That ability is astoundingly good. It makes it so that it is possible to not build for energy efficiency because of the energy economy in the game, and it means that you can get teammates with incredibly powerful abilities at their disposal at all times. Well of Life is more a stun than a heal, but will allow you to heal well in the early game yourself when you're leveling Trinity. Link is quite good and makes you very hard to kill, and speaking of hard to kill, Blessing. Restore all of your health and shields at any range instantly, and with efficiency, it only costs 25 energy. Valkyr, incredibly adept at surviving anything. Ripline is incredibly good for mobility, albeit a bit hard to control at times. Warcry makes it so that she can melee faster, which is going to be a theme here. Paralysis can set enemies up for finishers, which can do incredibly high damage when used correctly with Valkyr. Hysteria sends her into a completely invulnerable rage. If you take energy efficiency and combine it with as much duration as you can get, with a good melee weapon to supplement her 4's usually low damage, Valkyr is an unstoppable force unless the enemy can turn off her 4. Any enemy that cannot take her out of Hysteria cannot kill Valkyr. It is not possible. Vauban, another one of those crowd control masters as it happens, but for only 2 reasons. Bastille and Vortex. Tesla, which we'll touch on a little bit, is okay at low levels, and it's a little trap that zaps over and over, and can insta-kill low-level enemies. It's quite useful. His 2 is more of a toy than anything else, but can help players that are maybe less skilled get to areas that are up higher that they may not be able to get to without more time in the game. Bastille, on the other hand, is basically a spider web, and you just lift enemies up into the air and blow their fucking brains out. Vortex is a nice ability that whenever you have all these guys in their nets, throw a vortex down, bring them all together, take a nice flamethrower, and have yourself a Corpus barbecue. Volt is, in my humble opinion, the best starter frame. His 1 is a guaranteed stun, costs a reasonable amount, 25 energy for a guaranteed stun, does good damage in the early game, so what more can you ask of a 1? Well, it's also a chain stun. Enemies around it, incredibly useful, but that's not all Volt has going for him. He's also got speed. Want to speedrun a mission? Tired of running this mission over and over? We'll do it super fast. Speed makes you run super fast. It couldn't be more simple than that. And then he has his other useful abilities, Electric Shield. It is literally just a shield in front of you that you can shoot through to do more damage, which just sounds amazing, and bullets can't hit you. What could possibly be better? His 4, on the other hand, is a little underwhelming, but most 4s are whenever they are just or exclusively raw damage. And another downside is it only really works once. Alright, bringing up the rear is Zephyr. Tailwind will allow you to fly through the air with precision. I don't have a lot of words to say about Zephyr other than she's just good, but she's not overpowered in any one particular way. Her 3 is a fairly reliable shield, but not 100% reliable, so you'll still get hit every now and then. Her 4 is a crowd control with decent damage that you may also not particularly want to rely on, although it is quite good. Her main thing is that her Tailwind, when modded correctly, can take you through a mission even faster than Volt's 2. She's just a fun frame, in my opinion. Granted, I haven't played Zephyr particularly a lot, but she's a lot of fun. She's not God, but she's fun. Whew! Okay. So, that was a fun time. Oh, man. Oh, that stuff needs to be edited very badly. Okay, so, anyway, tell me what you guys think about this, because I really enjoyed this, I was going to say selection, that's not the right word I'm looking for, suggestion. I really enjoyed the suggestion, and if you guys just want my, like, hacked up, super quick opinions that are maybe not as fleshed out as they maybe could be in a minute, but I'm not really good at the simple stuff, as I said before. And I know that recently I have not exactly been pumping out the more specific content in Warframe, although I would like to. But I hope you guys will stick around, because I should have some time coming up soon to do some more in-depth type videos. But if you liked this, it just so happens that these videos are fairly easy to do. I don't know about the editing part. Probably harder on the editing side. Anyway, yeah. If you guys like this stuff, please tell me. I find the like button to be nice, and I feel like I get a small amount of feedback that way. But if you guys really enjoy this format, I suppose, then just tell me directly in a comment or in a private message if you don't like commenting. I don't mind either way. I mean, I respond to everything. I appreciate what you guys give me feedback on whenever, which is why I take suggestions and stuff to try and improve. And yeah, I don't know. If you guys liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, if you need more in-depth stuff, if you're on the fence about it, I don't know, let me know.